talking Ohio Bobcats today here on Sharpen the Point. Last season, an 11-3 record, their first 11-win season in program history, and a MAC championship just kind of out of nowhere, with longtime coach Tim Albin, who managed to just get the most out of his roster when it got ravaged in the spring portal. He's now departed for Charlotte. Head coach is Brian Smith in his first season after being elevated from the offensive coordinator role a year ago. And given his time on Albin's staff, the culture should carry over with the hopes of continuing the success seen during the Albin regime. I'm guessing Albin got kind of tired of getting his guys poached every spring. Offensive coordinator, new one, Scott Effording. He's in his first season. Quarterback coach, pass game coordinator a year ago, gets promoted. He's going to be Smith's right-hand man. Hopefully Smith's able to kind of separate himself and let Scott be the true play caller and everything rather than trying to take too much on his plate right out the gate. Quarterback. We get the return of dual threat quarterback Parker Navarro. He is massive for their prospects. He is a very large reason as to why they were able to win that MAC championship a year ago. He comes off of a breakout season, saw him have 2,400 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, more importantly, over 1,000 yards rushing and 18 touchdowns on the ground. He finished the season on an absolute tear, accounting for 19 touchdowns over his final 5 games, cleared 100 yards rushing in 4 of those 5. It's just in order to take the next step, Navarro needs to improve on limiting the turnovers, as the 11 interceptions he had a year ago compared to those 13 touchdown passes is not going to cut it in order for them to make a return trip given the roster's makeup. Running back, leading rusher Anthony Tyus graduates. He had a very effective 1,200-yard, 9-touchdown season. Backup Ricky Hunt, who had that massive bowl game a couple years ago, transferred out to Middle Tennessee. The loss of Tyus could have been massive and could have just really put a damper on this offense and put way too much on Navarro's plate, except for the fact that the prodigal son, Sia Bangura, comes home after a season languishing at Minnesota. Bangura had 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns in 2022. He had 800 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2023 during his previous stint as a Bobcat. The pairing of Navarro and Bangura will be one of the best rushing duos in the G5 overall. I think Bangura comes back, has a 1,000-yard season, pushes for double-digit touchdowns as long as Navarro doesn't take too many of them, and they just absolutely run the football down the throat of their opponents. Pass catcher-wise, losing leading receiver Coleman Owen is not helpful. He was on a highly productive season a year ago with 78 catches, over 1,200 yards, and 8 touchdowns. It's a big loss considering no other pass catcher had more than 2 touchdowns on the season. Last year's wide receiver 2, who really kind of ran wind sprints most of the year, Chase Hendricks, he's going to step into that wide receiver 1 role with Rodney Harris and Caleb Gossett likely to round out the starting set. That leads me to believe that we're not going to see Navarro's pass game capability improve, but yet this team's going to fully lean into being a rush-first offense as usual. They just might lack that explosive weapon on the outside, but maybe those wind sprints turn into long touchdowns for Chase Hendricks this year. Starting tight end Mason Williams returns. He's got a limited role. He's just going to be kind of blocking for the most part. Offensive line-wise, you lose starting center, all-name team member Parker Titsworth. He graduates. And overall, the middle of the line will be plenty of new faces. Thankfully for this line, the edge guys, both starting tackles, are going to return in left tackle Davion Weatherspoon and Jordan Jones. They are very important to keeping the edge and letting Navarro get out on the edge and make plays in the pass game and be able to get Bangura to the edge too. That line's going to be uber important in their winning capability prolonged in this season. Defensive line-wise, The defense, last year the spring portal decimated the offense and they made it work. This year the defense got decimated in the spring portal. Defensive end Bradley Weaver, he heads to Rutgers following 8.5 sacks. Marcel Walker-Burgess and his 6 sacks graduated. Braylon Henderson, CJ Doggett, and Cam Rice all leave from the defensive tackle spot. That kills the depth up the middle, and ultimately it's going to fall on some transfers. Honest Lukeman from Arkansas Pine Bluff, Evan Herman from Vanderbilt, and Nehemiah Dukes from Youngstown State, along with a bunch of inexperienced depth from a year ago, need to step up and make an impact for this defensive line to continue the quality they've been able to get out of it for the past few years. In the linebacker room, it got killed by graduations and the portal, much like all of this defense, specifically to the former head coach, Tim Albin. He took 3 with him to Charlotte. Second leading tackler, Shea Taylor, he departed from the middle linebacker spot, while top tackler Blake Leak graduated. It's tough looking at the depth chart at the moment. They're going to be in the market. I expect some additions, as it's just a clear weakness of the roster from a depth standpoint is this actual linebacker room that is generous to call it a room at this point. In the defensive backfield, the secondary is in better shape. They returned 2 key starters in Tank Pearson and DJ Walker. The newer faces that they have brought in have good experience. Hopefully they can step right in and perform. Looking at the 2025 schedule and outlook, in an almost sadistic way for a second season in a row, Ohio was hammered in the spring portal. Like we mentioned, last season it was the offense. This season it's the defense. A number of expected starters left. And ultimately, with all those losses, plenty of offensive talent emerged a year ago, leading to this room being able to reach new heights. Let's see if the defense can do a similar turnaround, albeit not under Albin's leadership. But those are questions that need to be answered between now and when they take the field in the fall. I hope they can, and I hope because of the culture they'll be able to. It's really up in the air, though. It's a razor's edge to be able to play with. Look at Florida State. Florida State turned the roster over and had one very successful year and one very bad year. So that's going to be interesting to watch play out. We know the offense is going to be quality. It's just a question of if the defense can step up and take care of business. But this schedule out the gate is rough. At Rutgers, the offense can compete with this Rutgers offense. I just don't know if this defense can hold up. I believe Rutgers wins this football game mainly because they're going to be able to outscore this offense. West Virginia, very similar. It's early in the season. Getting Rich Rod with a full roster turnover might be the time to get him. But it's very similar to the Rutgers game where can this defense hold up against a Rich Rod offense that's going to do stuff very similar to this Ohio offense. They might just be a better brand of it. You're going to pray you come out 1-1 with that schedule. I hope they do, but that's a tall task and a tough ask because week 3, you're at Ohio State, and they did not do Brian Smith any favors with this schedule. You're not coming out of that Ohio State game with a win. It's going to hopefully not be ugly, and hopefully you don't get beat up too much, but there might be reason to pull some guys early there, specifically Navarro and Bangura, in order to keep them healthy because you're going to need them going forward. Now, you get a soft landing after that. You get Gardner-Webb, easy win. Bowling Green, nice start to the MAC schedule, easy win. At Ball State, easy win. Those are some of the worst teams in the league, other than Kent State and UMass, but you'll get UMass later. Northern Illinois, that's a coin flip game. I think Navarro's the difference there. Northern Illinois, not a great quarterback. Good run game, good defense, solid defense. But I would lean towards Ohio getting the job done there with the quarterback play of Navarro, that combination of him and Bangura being able to take care of business. At Eastern Michigan, think you're too talented, you win that game. Miami of Ohio, also, this is one of, if not the best action game, along with that Miami of Ohio Toledo game. Very much so looking forward to this one. Excited for it. The matchup of Navarro and Finn is the best quarterback matchup. I don't know. Gleason, man, that's going to be a fun one. But yeah, Navarro and Finn could easily be the best quarterback matchup of the season in the MAC. At Western Michigan, that's close. It's closer than you would want, but I expect a win there. You should be able to handle business given their questions at the quarterback position. UMass, easy win. And closing with at Buffalo, that's a sneaky tough game. If the weather breaks wrong, that game gets very tough, very interesting. Buffalo's got a very good defense coming back. They're going to be a tough matchup. That could be a game that is important as to whether you can make this MAC title game or not. It's going to be a very tough start for Brian Smith. I think 3-0, you should expect 3-0. Or 0-3, excuse me. That would be crazy for you to go 3-0. If you're 3-0, you're making the G5 playoff. Winning any one of those games is going to be great to start the season. You should be happy with that. 1 and 2 out of that would be great. Luckily, after that, the schedule lightens up, and you can gain some momentum heading into some very important MAC games. 6 wins in a bowl appearance feels like a lock. While the ceiling is potentially capped because of those first 3 games, I'd call 8 wins a successful season, and anything more than that, a very good beginning to Brian Smith's tenure here at Ohio.